There is a magic in discipline, a magic that only a few are willing to uncover. Some people say, dream big, aim high, reach for the skies. But I say, dream big, but do the small things that 90% of people avoid. Because it's not the big moments that define us, it's the small, consistent choices we make every single day. Today, I want to share with you the simple but powerful rules that 90% will ignore, yet following them guarantees your transformation. When you follow these rules, you become a force that cannot be ignored, a person forged by discipline, patience, and relentless courage. This is your moment to break away from the herd, to become the 10% who make a true, eternal impact. Let's unveil these powerful, game-changing rules together. Number 1, own your street, Ori. Without shame, without excuse. There's a unique kind of silence that follows pain. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of hiding, of not wanting to be seen, of burying parts of yourself because the world has convinced you that broken means unworthy. But what if I told you the cracks you try so hard to hide are where your light escapes? We live in a world obsessed with appearances, with edited moments, with curated realities. But behind every smiling face, there is a story. And most people spend their whole lives pretending theirs isn't complicated. But your story, in all its mess, matters. Every chapter, even the one that hurt the most, is a thread in the tapestry of your strength. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be real. To walk into a room not trying to impress, but to express. Not to fit in, but to belong to yourself. And the only way you'll ever feel whole is if you stop cutting out the parts of you that feel too painful to look at. Your past didn't come to destroy you. It came to teach you something no textbook ever could. It taught you how to survive when everything was falling apart. It taught you how to breathe when the weight on your chest was too heavy to carry. It taught you how to smile again, even when your heart forgot how to beat with joy. There is strength in owning your story. Not just the victories, but the failures. Not just the celebrations, but the losses. There's a quiet kind of power in saying, yes, this happened to me, and no, it did not break me. Because healing is not denying what happened. It's choosing to rise anyway. We grow up thinking we need to hide our pain so people will love us. But true love, real connection begins when we let others see our truth. When we stop editing our lives and start sharing the pages as they are written, raw and unfiltered. That's when we become more than just a face in the crowd. We become a soul that speaks. You don't owe anyone a sanitized version of your story. You don't need to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You don't need to carry the weight of shame that was never yours to begin with. The moment you start owning your story, you start rewriting your future. Every scar you carry is a sentence in the most powerful chapter of your life. Every tear you've cried is ink that proves you've lived deeply, not just existed. There is nothing shameful about surviving. There is everything beautiful about rising again. People will try to define you by what you went through. They will label you, limit you, misunderstand you. But the most courageous thing you can ever do is define yourself on your terms. Speak your name with pride. Speak your truth without apology. No one else gets to decide when your story is too much. You were not too emotional. You were not too intense. You were never too broken. You were simply too real for people who haven't met their own reflection yet. Your story is not a secret to be kept. It is a message to be shared. It is a light to be carried. It is a mirror for someone else who is still lost in the darkness, trying to find a way out. What if your story could save someone else? What if your courage to speak is the lifeline someone else has been praying for? What if your voice, trembling and tired, becomes the strength in someone else's silence? You may not realize it now, but the day you stop hiding your story is the day you stop hiding yourself. And when you show up as the whole version of who you are, the world doesn't just notice you begin to shift the world itself. Because the most powerful stories aren't the ones that sound perfect. They are the ones that sound real. And there is nothing more real, more human, more sacred than the sound of someone who's finally chosen to be seen. Number 2, say no. without guilt, and yes, without fear. There's a moment in every life where the weight of pleasing others becomes heavier than the joy of being yourself. It starts with small compromises, saying yes when your heart screams no, silencing your voice to keep the peace, sacrificing your needs just to avoid being seen as difficult. And before you know it, you become a stranger to yourself. So many people are walking around exhausted, not because of work, not because of life, but because they are carrying the burden of unspoken resentment, because they say yes with their lips and no with their souls, because they fear that a boundary will make them unloved, unwanted, unworthy. But you were not born to be a servant of other people's comfort. You were born to honor your truth. Saying no is not rejection, it's protection. It's self-respect. It's the echo of your heart reminding you that you deserve to be honored too. We grow up believing that love must be earned by sacrifice. But the love that costs you your self-worth is not love, it's dependence, it's control. It's a mirror reflecting back every time you abandon yourself just to be accepted. When you begin to say no without guilt, you begin to understand who you are without the noise of expectations. You begin to hear the sound of your own voice again. It's trembling at first, unfamiliar, fragile, but soon it becomes steady, and then it becomes a force. And when you say yes without fear, something magical happens. You begin to choose joy without waiting for permission. You begin to move toward dreams without asking for validation. You begin to live with your whole chest, not hiding behind hesitation. Yes, people will be disappointed when you stop bending. Yes, you may lose some relationships when you stop shrinking. But what you will gain is peace, freedom, and a circle that loves you for your truth, not your compliance. Your no is a declaration of self-worth. Your yes is a declaration of purpose, and both are sacred. Both are divine. Both must come from a place of alignment, not anxiety. There will always be voices that try to guilt you into submission. How could you say no to your family? How dare you put yourself first? Who do you think you are? And your answer will simply be, I am someone who finally matters to myself. You are not selfish for choosing you. You are not cold for creating space. You are not heartless for protecting your peace. You are finally listening to the one person you've ignored the most, yourself. And that voice within it knows. It always knew. It begged you to set boundaries. It whispered warnings before the burnout. It cried in silence when you betrayed yourself for approval. Now it's time to let that voice lead. Do not let guilt become your compass. Do not let fear choose your direction. Let self-love be the map. Let clarity be the guide. Let freedom be the destination. You will find that the more you honor your own yes and no, the more you attract people who do the same. People who don't require your sacrifice to love you. People who cheer for your authenticity, not your obedience. And even if you're alone for a while, remember, being alone in your truth is more sacred than being surrounded in your silence. Because the most powerful thing you can ever say isn't, I agree. It's I matter too. Number 3, discipline over motivation every single time. Motivation is loud. It's glamorous. It bursts into your life with music and adrenaline and promises. But it never stays. It disappears when the mood changes, when life hits back, when sleep feels more comfortable than growth. And that is why most people never finish what they start. Discipline, however, is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need perfect conditions. It shows up in the dark when no one's watching. It's the whisper that says, get up again, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. We are taught to chase inspiration, to wait for a sign, to feel ready. But the truth is, waiting to feel ready is the greatest trap. The ones who change their lives are not the ones who are always inspired. They are the ones who are committed even when inspiration is absent. Discipline is not about harshness. It's not about punishment. It's about choosing what you want most over what you want now. It's about honoring your long-term self even when your short-term self is tired, scared, or bored. Most people quit on the hard days. They think the struggle means they're doing something wrong. But struggle is not a sign of failure. It's the very evidence that you're growing. It's the weight that builds your strength. When you rely on motivation, you are at the mercy of your emotions. But when you cultivate discipline, you become the master of your destiny. Because you're not controlled by how you feel, you're led by what you've committed to. Discipline shows up at 5 a.m. when your bed is warm, but your goals are calling. Discipline shows up in the gym when your body aches and your mind screams, "Not today." Discipline shows up at the desk when the words aren't flowing, but your message still matters. You see, discipline is not a punishment, it's a promise. A promise to your future self that says, "I will not abandon you." That promise is sacred. And keeping it, that's where transformation begins. There is no shortcut to excellence, no cheat code to mastery. Every breakthrough you desire lives on the other side of repetition. And repetition is born from discipline, not motivation. You don't need to feel good to do good. You don't need to be excited to be effective. The greatest victories are won in silence, through consistency, not in the spotlight, through bursts of excitement. If you're tired, that's okay. But don't confuse tiredness with weakness. Your tired self can still show up. Your broken self can still choose discipline. And that choice will rewrite everything you believe about yourself. Because the moment you realize you can act without feeling ready, you unlock a power that can't be taken away. The power of choice, the power of perseverance, the power of discipline. And in the end, it is not the days you felt inspired that change your life. It is the days you kept going when no one saw, no one clapped, and no one knew, but you knew. And that was enough. Number 4, focus on progress, not perfection. Perfection is a prison dressed in gold. It looks beautiful from the outside, but once you step inside, it starts to suffocate your spirit. It convinces you that you're never enough, no matter how hard you try. That there's always one more thing to fix, one more flaw to erase, one more reason to delay your dreams. Progress, on the other hand, is gentle. It's quiet. It doesn't demand you to be flawless. It asks only for your effort. It meets you where you are, not where the world thinks you should be. And that is the kind of growth that lasts. We live in a culture that glorifies perfection. Perfect pictures, perfect performances, perfect timelines. But that illusion is just an illusion. Real growth is messy. It's uneven. It's filled with stumbles, restarts, and moments of doubt. And still, it moves forward. You were not created to be perfect. You were created to evolve. To shed your skin again and again. To rise, fall, and rise differently. There is more beauty in your becoming than there ever will be in pretending to have already arrived. There are people who never start because they're afraid of starting small. But the truth is, everything meaningful starts with humble beginnings. The first step is not supposed to look grand, it's supposed to be sincere. Every masterpiece began as a messy sketch. Every dancer stumbled on their first steps. Every voice cracked in its first song. If you can learn to love your first draft, you'll give yourself the chance to finish the book. Progress doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like confusion, like dragging your feet through resistance, like repeating yourself, like failing publicly. But every time you keep going, you are already winning. When you chase perfection, you delay joy. You keep postponing your peace, your confidence, your worth until everything is just right. But nothing will ever be just right. Life was never meant to be flawless. It was meant to be felt. Celebrate your baby steps. Honor your tiny wins. Speak gently to yourself when you slip. Because you're not climbing a mountain to prove you can be perfect. You're climbing it to prove you can keep going even when it's hard. Some people wait for the fear to go away before they move. But courage is not the absence of fear, it's the willingness to move in its presence. And that, my friend, is progress. Not loud, not flashy, just honest. just brave. You are allowed to outgrow your past without needing to hate it. You are allowed to make new decisions without explaining your old ones. Growth doesn't need justification. It only needs your permission. Stop measuring your success by someone else's ruler. Your journey is sacred, even if it's slower, quieter, or more crooked than you hoped. The direction matters more than the speed. The effort matters more than the outcome. The truth is, perfection doesn't inspire people. Progress does. Your willingness to be seen in the middle of your mess is what gives others the strength to face their own. Your vulnerability becomes their permission. You're not falling behind. You're not too late. You're not broken. You are progressing. And that is enough. In fact, that is everything. Because progress, when done with honesty and heart, becomes the most powerful kind of transformation. And one day, you'll look back and realize the most beautiful parts of your life were never the polished ones. They were the ones where you dared to begin, dared to continue, and dared to believe that imperfect still meant worthy. Number 5, stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. There's a quiet lie that so many carry in their hearts, the belief that they need someone else to grant them the right to rise. The belief that their worth, their voice, their dreams are valid only when acknowledged by others. But the truth is, you were born worthy. You never needed permission to shine. Too often we live in waiting. Waiting for a mentor to say we're good enough. Waiting for a family member to finally understand. Waiting for the world to open a door that we've always had the key to. But while you wait, your light dims. And your potential sits silently in a corner of your heart, wondering when it will be invited to live. You don't need approval to be authentic. You don't need applause to be valuable. You don't need a title, a follower count, or a stage to matter. You matter because you breathe. You matter because you exist. You matter here and now. The world has a habit of celebrating people only after they succeed. But it's in the quiet moments, before the world notices, where true greatness is born. And if you keep waiting for someone to notice you before you act, you'll never become who you're meant to be. Your dreams don't need to be validated by others to be valid. If the dream was placed in your heart, then it's already sacred. Then it's already enough. No one else was meant to understand it fully because it wasn't given to them. It was given to you. So speak your truth before it's popular. Walk your path before it's proven. Start your project before it's perfect. Love yourself before the world gives you permission. Because every revolution, internal or external, begins with someone brave enough to go first. You will be misunderstood. That's part of being original. You will be doubted. That's part of being bold. You will be judged. That's part of being seen. But none of that compares to the ache of hiding who you really are. You are not too much. You are not too early. You are not too strange. You are exactly what this world needs. But it won't see it until you do. So be your own permission. Be your own yes. Be your own beginning. And when the fear rises, the fear of rejection, of ridicule, of failure, remember this. Fear doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. It means you are standing on the edge of growth. It means something powerful is waiting on the other side. There is nothing more tragic than a life half lived because someone waited for the green light that never came. You were never meant to wait at the red light of someone else's doubt. You were meant to run boldly into the intersection of your calling. It is not arrogance to believe in yourself. It is self-respect. It is honor. It is the highest form of gratitude for the breath in your lungs and the gifts in your soul. And when you begin to walk in that belief, something incredible happens. People who once doubted you begin to ask how you did it. People who once ignored you begin to listen. And people who once feared their own voice begin to find it because you dared to use yours. You are the answer to someone else's waiting. You are the hope someone else has been silently praying for. And it begins when you stop asking, "Am I allowed?" and start declaring, "I am ready." You don't need the world to say yes. You only need to stop saying no to yourself. Because the truth is, you've always been enough. You've always had it in you. You've just been waiting to believe it. At the end of the day, and now as we bring this reflection to a close, not with an ending, but with a beginning, I want to ask you something not many dare to ask. Will you be the exception? Because these rules, these 5 quiet, soul-deep principles are not difficult because they are complex. They are difficult because they require truth. They demand you show up, stripped of pretense, uncloaked from excuses, and brave enough to meet the most honest version of yourself. To own your story without shame is not easy, because it means looking at the parts of your life you'd rather forget. It means choosing to no longer hide behind edited versions of your truth, but the moment you stop hiding, you stop hurting yourself in silence. To say no without guilt and yes without fear is not comfortable. It means choosing boundaries even when it shakes relationships. It means honoring your peace over the approval of others. It means giving yourself the right to matter. To choose discipline over motivation is not glamorous. It is quiet work, repetitive work, lonely work. But it is also the foundation of every breakthrough you will ever experience. Because no one becomes extraordinary by waiting to feel ready. To embrace progress over perfection requires a gentle kind of courage. The kind that lets you move forward without having all the answers. The kind that allows failure to be your teacher instead of your enemy. The kind that lets you bloom in seasons of imperfection. And to stop waiting for permission to finally become who you are without waiting for validation is perhaps the most rebellious act of self-love there is. Because when you say, I'm enough now, you don't just change your life, you give others the courage to say it too. Most people will never follow these rules. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Because it's easier to blame the world than confront the mirror. Because it's safer to stay silent than to speak your truth. Because it's more familiar to settle than to rise. But you are not most people. You have already survived too much to live a half-written story. You have already been through fire, you might as well come out gold. You have already been given one wild, precious life. Don't let fear be the narrator. These rules aren't here to restrict you, they're here to release you, to free you from the weight of waiting, from the ache of comparison, from the quiet self-betrayal that comes from living small. They are the map, but you are the compass. They are the foundation, but you are the builder. They are the spark, but you are the flame. So yes, 90% may never do it. They will stay behind, watching, wishing, wondering what could have been. But you, if you choose, you will walk forward, not perfectly, not painlessly, but purposefully. This life isn't asking for your perfection, it's asking for your participation. It's asking you to show up. Raw, ready, real. It's asking you to stop waiting and start becoming. You are not here to fit in. You are here to awaken. You are not here to survive. You are here to rise. And if you just follow these rules, not someday, but now, you will find yourself in the rare 10%. The ones who didn't just dream of a life worth living. They built it, step by step. Truth by truth, day by day. So take the first step and let the rest of the world wonder how you did it.